Formula E is back for season 11, and what a race we got. Multiple red flags, multiple safety cars, and the last the first winner with Mitch Evans. And I would say we first start with the Jaguar outfit, because for them it didn't really look like it was going to be a successful event. Although their pace in practice was okay, qualifying was an absolute disaster, with both of them not getting out of the group stages and with Evans even having to retire with an electrical issue. However, in the race they could show what they were capable of by charging through the field in the early stages of the race, with Evans taking 7 positions just on lap 1, bringing them very close to the front of the grid very soon in the race. And that was not only down to them being great drivers and having a great package with Jaguar, but also the attack mode combined with the 4-wheel drive system that gives you an absolute advantage over the drivers that don't have it. And although they weren't the only team to take the attack mode that early in the race, it had clearly shown that they were the team to gain the most advantage from it, passing drivers left and right. Unfortunately for Cassidy, he got taken out late in the race, as after the restart he tried to pass multiple drivers and ended up in a crash with Pascal Wehrlein, who fortunately didn't take any injuries from it. But I would say we come back to his teammate Mitch Evans and once again talk about what a drive that was, because we have never seen something like this in Formula E before, that a driver starts from last place and gets on to win the E-Prix. And while for Jaguar the weekend turned out relatively okay in the end, Porsche can't say the same thing. But for them it seemed like a relatively weird weekend at all, because for them it almost seemed like only one of their drivers could do well, with Wehrlein really dominating the first part of the weekend, being relatively good in practice and taking pole in qualifying, but unfortunately getting taken out by Cassidy in the late stages of the race. Thankfully he's not harmed. While the Costa had a relatively okay practice as well, but a poor qualifying, not getting out of the group stages, but with a solid and relatively calm drive being able to get into P2 at the end of the race. But I guess they won't be really happy about this result, because they were the clear favourites of the weekend. Their package seemed to work really well, and especially Wehrlein was on the pace the whole weekend. And although their strategy seemed a little bit weird, I mean they took their first attack mode relatively late, they were still able to stay at the front. And for them it looked like they could really get some good points in this first round, and so it is really unfortunate that Wehrlein got taken out in the late stages of the race. But one team that is probably really happy about the result of the first weekend is McLaren, with them being able to achieve a P3 and P4 finish, especially Taylor Barnard, who not only gets his first podium in Formula E, but also with that becomes the youngest podium scorer in Formula E history. And they were able to get this really good result in by waiting very long to take the major part of their attack mode, and being one of the only teams to have left 6 minutes of attack mode after Jake Dennis's breakdown, which led to a red flag, giving them the possibility to go full charge on the restart and positioning them in P5 and P6 right behind the Jaguars and the Porsche. And when then Cassidy and Wehrlein crashed out, it meant that both of them were able to get right in behind the Costa and Evans to be able to position them for a possible move for the win, because they still had left way more power in their battery than the twos up ahead. And although it would have probably been possible for them to go for a late move, they were clever enough to know that they would rather get the few points they would get from this P4 and P3 finish, instead of just going for a risky move that might take them out of the race, costing them way more money and points. But you could see that not only Taylor Barnard, but Sam Bird was still really happy with that result, giving them a real good position already in the early stages of the season, compared to other teams in the midfield that would have liked to score points as well. And one team that would have taken that result straight away without any questions asked is Andretti, because they experienced a complete shocker of a weekend, with everything that could have gone wrong going wrong at the end. I mean, it was almost cruel to see how much bad luck they experienced throughout the whole weekend, especially Nico Muller, who experienced the weekend to completely forget, by already clipping the wall in FP1, which meant that the team had to take its spare tyre, which they only allowed to take once in the season and would have probably liked to take it later in the season, and with him also being taken out in the race on lap 3 by one of the Kiros. And for his teammate Jake Dennis, the weekend looked relatively promising, being able to qualify himself in P3 and having a relatively good pace to stay at the front of the grid. Unfortunately, he also had to retire from the race on lap 26 with an electrical issue in the car. This is really unfortunate for the team, as they seem to be the third force to be reckoned with, behind Porsche and Jaguar. I mean, they were relatively good on pace all weekend out, but unfortunately they got taken out by multiple things that were not in control by them. And one driver that got also robbed of a really good result, maybe even a win, was Rowland, because he was able to extract a really good pace from his Nissan, being able to qualify in P2 to get the lead of the race at turn 1 and being able to stay relatively comfortably in the lead of the race until he got hit with a drive-through penalty for overusage of the battery. And from my point of view, this is a really harsh penalty for maybe not even an advantage at all, and it completely destroys your race and takes away every hope of not only getting a good result, but even being able to get back into the race, because this happened relatively late in the E-Prix. Because for me, he seemed to be the winner of the first E-Prix this season, but unfortunately he got thrown a spanner into the works by a penalty that from my point of view was really harsh. But I guess that's motorsport, but maybe you have to rethink this penalty for something that doesn't really give you an advantage at all. But all in all, this was an extremely good weekend for Formula E fans, with a lot of action on track, an unexpected race winner with Mitch Evans, who drove an outstanding race, I have to say that here once more, and just a feeling that leaves you with the desire of wanting to watch an E-Prix just next weekend. Unfortunately, we have to wait until January for round 2, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of Formula E fans are going to be really excited to see the electrical cars go once again in the new year. But what do you think about this new season? Who was your winner of this first round? And what do you think about the attack mode combined with the four-wheel drive system that we're going to see this season? Let me know in the comments down below, and until then, I'll see you next time.